This is The Gorge. This is a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves on analyzing a different topic once a week. The Gorge is brought to you by Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/THEGOR. You can buy us a coffee, and that money will, instead of going to coffee, it will go towards paying for our subscriptions for all of our stuff that we host the podcast on and all that. So...
Eloquent.
Yeah, this is the first week we're officially doing something that isn't a video game.
Right.
But it does involve video games in a way. So what are we talking about, Sara?
This week we're talking about the anime Recreators, which, for the record, if you want to stream it, it's available on Amazon Prime Video. Because I figured, since we list the systems that the games are on, it's always a good idea to list where it's available to stream. And
yeah.
In this case, it is Amazon Prime, and it took me a really long time to find it. Like, I don't know if Amazon is aware of how shitty their PlayStation 4, interface is. There's no anime tab that I can, you can't just go to the anime genre. You have to, search for anime to find all of their stuff. I don't know, it sucks.
I'm gonna be honest about it. Speaking of the Amazon Prime thing, I watched it on my computer, and this is just me being kind of an elitist, but
that's fine.
The fact that they aren't hard coded subs, and it's just the closed captioning function that has the English translation. I'm oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like a snob. I watched Hoseki no Kuni, or The Land of the Lustrous, on Amazon Prime, and I really, legitimately hated it. Having to watch it with hard-coded subs, because it just kind of, that show is so, aesthetic, the anime, and it, fucks with the aesthetic so bad that I know that makes me sound like a snob, but I don't care. So I wish Amazon would get its shit together with the anime.
Because you look at Crunchyroll or Funimation, and they just have here's the white text with a black border, and that's it, But then you get Amazon Prime, and it's well, here's this gray box with the text in it, and it just doesn't look good. And
the only thing that Amazon Prime does right that I wish Crunchyroll and Funimation would do, is you can adjust the size of your subs, the text
that is
size,
nice.
And I am blind as a motherfucker, and so that was the best part. I was oh my god, I can actually read these subs without having to worry at all, which is concerning, and I probably need glasses.
Yeah, you do.
I know I need glasses. I just haven't had the time to go get my eyes checked yet. This is all off topic. We're talking about Recreators, which is good as hell and a great way to start the new format of the Gorge.
Yeah.
Please put please imagine that with sparkles behind it. The new format.
So this is a little bit unique in that normally we just kind of assume you've already observed or watched or played the material we're talking about, right. But this time Recreators did not have the cultural impact that I think it really deseres.
Yeah, I think Recreators is way better than the My Anime List score. The My Anime List score has it at a 7.5, which is good, but I feel it deserves an 8, an 8 or an 8.5. It's not perfect. It's not Cowboy Bebop or anything like that. But I think it's definitely better than people are giving it credit for.
So before we get started, I want to do a spoiler-free pitch for it to encourage people to, hey, go check this series out. It is very cool. If you like stuff like Fate, or you are really into more stuff that plays with meta, this is absolutely a series for you. If you have a Venn diagram of Fate and Undertale and
Persona kind of, and just a general kind of if you like isekai anime at all, it's a really cool kind of reverse isekai. And isekai, if you don't know, is stuff like Overlord or Sword Art Online, where it's like isekai means another world, where you get dragged to another world. It's the other way around.
Yeah, the premise of it basically is, what if anime was real, and what if anime was mad at you?
What if anime could get back at you for your shitty fandom habits, basically?
Yeah, it's, so the basic premise is a bunch of anime and video game characters get pulled from their respective worlds into the real world, and they deal with the fallout of that. But, like, unlike a lot of, like, stuff that deals with this kind of premise, like, it really dives into not just, like, oh, what if this magical person is in the real world now? It explores, like, what fandom and what, like, the author, like, will do with their own work. Like, when you're confronted with it in a real way like that.
Yeah, it definitely is. It doesn't just go this whole idea of, like, magic is real and here's some anime characters in the real world. It's like, here are some anime characters in the real world who are made, like, painfully aware of the fact that they are characters in a story, and how they handle it, and how, obviously, the title suggests, like, how their creators handle it, like, content creators, and how they feel about their creations, and, like, their, authorial intent, I guess, versus the personalities they've implanted into these characters. And it's a really good back and forth. It's not perfect. There's a lot there. The middle of the show, like slows down to a crawl. It's like 4 episodes of just, like, get on with it. But once you get past kind of, like, that little chunk where things, like, really, really slow down, it picks back up again. And from, like, episode 12 to no, not episode 12. Like, episode 18 to the end, like, it's just a ride. It's great.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, if you are a creator yourself, if you are working on any sort of, like, creative project, or even if you are, like, heavily into fandom and curation, you'll feel like something. You'll feel something with this. Like, it's very interesting. It's very unique, and I think it's highly worth checking out. Like, I kind of, like, thinking of, like, what the pitch for this, like, if I did, like, suggest, like, a single scene, it's like, here's why you should watch it. Not going into too many spoilers, but, like, there's a scene where they're fighting the bad guy, and a character needs to be stronger, like, right then and there.
Oh, yeah.
So, the character's author and artist quickly draw a sketch of that character in, like, a power-up state, and they post that on their Twitter account.
Yeah.
And the fandom starts seeing it and starts liking it and commenting on it, and that collective consciousness gives the character the power-up for the time being.
Yeah, and it handles it really well. The other, like, thing in its favor is this is a passion project for Rei Hiroe, who, if you don't know that's the guy who made motherfucking Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
Which is, like, one of the greatest anime ever made. And this is, like, even more so than Black Lagoon, this is Rei Hiroe's, like, insane passion project. So he did all of the character designs. I think he either wrote or contributed to every single episode, and was just basically, like, deeply tied into the production of this show from the word go. It was directed by the guy who did Fate Zero. And the music is motherfucking Hiroyuki Sawano, who did Kill la Kill.
You get that.
So, it's pretty good. The music is insane, and we finally learned what a Sawano drop is. If you don't know. The Sawano drop is the part in Don't Lose Your Way where it gets really quiet and then the music explodes. And the whole soundtrack for Recreators is just a bunch of really
they're all over. Like, every song has one. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it looks great. The company who animated it does not have a bunch of high-profile projects, but all of their shows are very technically sound, and just, like, it isn't it isn't like Madhouse, which is of course like God tier, but every episode just looks very, very solid and is very well produced.
It looks very clean, and like it looks digital, but like in a very good way, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a good digital look. They handle CGI really well because there's big mechs and they have big CGI mechs and they look like great. It just. The character designs, because again, it's Rei Hiroe, who's like genius. All of the character designs are,
and you know, you get these characters that come from like a variety of different series, and like you can see like the overall genre, like collective influence that goes into each of these characters of that specific genre. You know, you have your big heavy knight girl who looks like a high fantasy series compared to the other knight girl who looks more like contemporary sci-fi magic, you know?
Like Fate. Yeah, like what even would you call a series like Silesia's show? It's kind of like Fate, not Fate. Like
kind of like Tales. Like actually, you know what? I feel like a lot of Symphonia, like that kind of like tech magic, you know?
Yeah, I feel that.
You know, it's cool. You've got like a cool mech pilot who is a little kid. You know, you've got your more like adult style manga where these characters who are dressed and, you know, designed in a way that's like, oh yeah, I know the kind of series they're from.
Yeah. Like there's a guy who we keep joking that there's characters basically like a gangsta character. Like there's like a gangster character. There's Madoka. Like Madoka is just
you know, if you were to see these characters, like you can see you can see like the overall art style of the manga page that like they come from. You know, like oh well, here's this character comes from a series with like a lot of heavy black ink, like shading all over, and it's like, you know, so that it's cool. You can kind of get that perspective just by looking at the overall character design. So it's all really, really fun in that way, and then the way it talks about meta and like the collective idea of how a fandom reacts to a series is just interesting.
Yeah, it's so, I don't know, it's really smart. It's just good. It has like the most solid first 2 episodes of any show I've ever seen. Like the first 2 episodes of Recreators are just like they immediately, you know, some shows kind of drag ass to get you into it. Not Recreators. It just immediately is like, hey, here you go. Here's your premise. Here's some cool shit happening. Here's some cool music. It all looks great. Have fun. So like the first 2 episodes of Recreators can definitely sell you on it. I'd say stick around for the first 4 because you get a good balance of the fact that there is a lot of talking about fandom and anime and like what goes into making stuff versus like the action thing. So it's kind of like a good balance between what basically the whole show is going to be like. And if you like Recreators after the first 4 episodes, you're gonna like Recreators for sure, probably for the rest of the show. And yeah, it's great. I can't speak highly about it enough. The whole reason I even watched it was because I got bored one night and I watched Jeff Thu, the guy who does Mother's Basement. He has a video about one of the fight scenes in the 2nd episode with the magical girl. And I watched that video, and it was, like I said, it was the 2nd episode, so there's really not a lot to spoil. And everything that was in that 2nd episode I was just really on board with it, and I was like, sure, cool, I'll go watch Recreators. And, then I binged it in like 3 days. And it's super good. It's like a full 22 episodes, I think 22. So it's digestible, but it's not like it's got enough room to breathe, unlike some 12 episode shows. So yeah, go check it out. Please watch Recreators. It's on Amazon Prime. So yeah,
it also has the best recap episode of any series I've ever seen. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It actually has an recap episode that's actually worth a damn. So, which is reason enough.
All right, yeah. So, we should move on then. So, I'm assuming you're back after binging all 22 episodes.
Yeah. this is your warning to go into like spoiler territory. So if the first 14 minutes of this episode made you interested, please go watch it. So in that case, hey, it's spoiler time!
This anime made me feel things that, like, are not normal for anime to make me feel.
I felt that, I had a lot of, like, really, really emotional moments. The last, like, 2 episodes of recreating like, emotional terrorism, because of, like, how hard I was crying in certain parts. And I mean, like, we talk about how I cry a lot in, like, things, but this is, like Tales of Berseria end of Act 2 degree of, like, gross sobbing at, like, 1 a.m., you know what I mean? But it was totally worth it. Oh, man, like, the whole bit with Altair and Setsuna, I just...
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's like, you know it's an ass pull, but...
Yeah, I wrote in the notes, like, point? Can you criticize a Deus Ex Machina when the intent is for it to be a Deus Ex Machina? Like, the whole reason, like, they were against it in the first place is because the creators knew that it would not be widely accepted. Like, they were taking a huge risk with it.
Right. But it also, like, that gamble actually pays off because of just the way it's sold, and it's just all from, like, it all works really well from an emotional standpoint, and I don't know, it was just, God, that whole I could, like, probably talk for, like, an hour just about that whole scene, and like, I kind of knew it was coming, but when it happened, I was still just, like, a train wreck, you know? Because it was so, like, emotionally and, like, all of the...
Yeah, you know what it is? It's very Frankenstein-esque, you know? The creature seeking validation that can only be given by the one who created it, you know? And it's... Yeah,
except it's like a happier. It's like a happier.
You know, also the fact that, like, the villains just get away with it.
The villain just kind of gets away.
Altair wins. She and then Magane also just bails.
Yeah. So great. I want to follow up show about Magane.
I'm just so because like you know, she leaves and you see her on the thing and it's like the epilogue episode happens and I'm like, wait, where did she go?
Where's Magane?
It's like
chilling out on a beach somewhere.
You know, and like, oh, I guess Magane is just gonna live in the real world. Then you think, wait, she murdered like a couple people. Yeah.
She killed a handful of dudes.
She murdered her own creator, which means her series can never end now. Like...
Right?
So...
That's... I guess. That's really interesting, but yeah, Magane got away with it, sure. I'm cool with it, because she's like... she's so... Man, this show would not be what it is without her, because she is such a fucking delight, you know what I mean? Like, every time she's on the screen, she just kind of, like, steals the scene, and her power gimmick is really cool. Like, the whole idea of twisting words and making, like, lies into truth and vice versa is, like, the coolest thing. And her bit with Sota is, like, the whole bit where her and Sota are standing over the arena and they're watching the last fight together, and that whole, like, conversation where it's basically like a philosophical debate where he sells her on his worldview and she, like, rewards him because he didn't buy into her lies and stuff. Man, that whole scene is so good. Like, she is so amazing, and her character design rules. Like,
I really wish they had done that with the other characters too. Like, Magane's in a very... Like, Magane and Mamaka are in very different art styles than the other characters. And I wish that had carried over more.
I almost wonder. I kind of like see it as like they look like that.
I
Because they're in
think
the real
so
world
too.
Kind of thing.
Like because like if you look at like the concept art or like the promotional art that's scattered throughout like the background and stuff, like they do look slightly different in there. But still, like I would have just like I don't know. It helps sell them on like being like otherworldly and stuff, you know.
Right. Yeah. Mamika, especially with her like poofy hair, is so great. Like her design.
Yeah.
Is so
it's
good.
just
She's just Madoka. It's fine. You get that it's like a power, but I mean, like it's also like a Precure reference. I'm not going to say it's just Madoka, but I mean, you can see the reference there with the pigtails and stuff. And the god tier powers. I love that the magical girl, like magical splash flare, is like the most insane ability in the whole show, and the only reason she doesn't make it to the end is because she's just so like soft-hearted, you know.
Yeah, just like Madoka, you know, even they don't get a happy ending.
No! The nice magical girls always get screwed over in the end, and they're all gay. Don't be a gay magical girl in an anime. Don't be
the pink gay one, especially.
Don't be the pink gay one, my god. You're just so doomed. At least, you know, Alistaria made it to the end, and then her and Mamika get that crossover series? Question marks? Like, incredibly loud question marks.
Well, that's what my favorite thing about, like, the whole thing with the ending is because I had that thought, like, watching it, like, when Mamika died, I'm like, well, what does this actually mean, you know? Like, what, so...
Right.
So, like, will her writer, like, stop writing the series now? Like, will he lose the will to write it? Like, what?
I don't
know because we never saw her creator. But it's still, like...
Because it's kind of... Poor Mamika is basically made by a Toei, you know? Like a big, faceless
But you know what I mean? It's like, well, she dies, but, like, well, what are the repercussions of that, you know? And, you know, it's funny because, like, Celestia and Alistaria and Charon, they died, you know, during the arena. And the audience saw that, and, like, one of the conflicts is, like, well, with the creative unconsciousness, like, how do you pull them back to life for when you continue their series again, you know? Because, like the whole thing is that, like,
go ahead.
Tsuruga couldn't bring back Erina because she couldn't get the audience to participate until they crossed over her world with Meteoras. Yeah, and so, like, you know, the implication being that, like, you can't just, like, retcon a life back in, you know, without thinking about it. So, like, now the challenge is that, like, Matsubara and Takarada have to, like, think of a way to bring their characters back to life to continue their series, you know?
Yeah. Right. But, you know, I kind of wonder... Yeah, that is a good question, like, how they... I mean, I guess, you know, anything's possible
because, like, you know, the thing is, like,
Mamika
died, but, like, Mamika never made the news. Mamika never, like, met her creator. So, like, the collective influence wouldn't affect her, like, future going forward, you know?
Right. Yeah, like that. There's no knowledge that Mamika.
Yeah, so they can continue her series without a problem. You know, it's just I would like to see, like, you know, that's the thing. Watching this at the end of this, I would love not like a full on sequel, but like you know, I think I've mentioned this before, where it's like there are certain series that I don't want like a sequel for, but I do want like yeah, like not just like an epilogue, but like a short like vignette stuff, you know? I would love like a 12 episode like vignette of like 2 episodes for each series, and it's just like dealing with the aftermath of the crossover event and like how their worlds continue on after that.
Yeah, I would even take like just like a 4-episode OVA,
you know, because like you get that whole bit in the end with Yuya and Sho.
Something. Yeah. Like, I want more. I just want more of Recreators. That's the problem. Is that like Recreators didn't set the world on fire, but I liked Recreators so much that this is kind of the first time that I kind of have to deal with the fact that this is a show, other than, like, Bakano, which is a whole different kind of agony. Like, it's a show that was really good, but didn't catch people's attention.
Yeah, to continue on. Like, it's not... I mean? It's good, but it wasn't good enough.
It wasn't good enough to get,
which is kind of funny, because that's, like... that, like, plays in with the whole meta-narrative, too. Like...
yeah, with the whole, like, accepting by fandom thing. Like, it's a show about, like, getting fandom to accept the premise of your show, and in the show's narrative, they pull it off, but in the actual, like, in the real world, they didn't, which is such a shame. Like, it's so good. I just...
Like, but, like, you know, I want to see, like, I want to see, like, how Yatoji deals with the big plot twist being revealed so casually, and, like, now he's got to continue his series.
Yeah. Knowing that, like, the whole world knows this major plot twist in his manga, but his idiot characters revealed it, like, on their own. Like, they just revealed it on their own just because they're idiots, and, like, that's the thing, is that Yatoji has to, like, deal with... I mean, like, Yatoji wrote these characters as idiots. That's, like, my favorite part of the show. That's a wholly
unique thing for a writer to deal with, when your own characters spoil your series. It's like a
writer's
it'd be like
worst nightmare.
You know I'm trying to think of, like, the real world version of it. It's like writing yourself in a situation with two characters where, like, you realize the only way to move the plot forward now is to reveal the plot twist, and you're like, you didn't plan it for that way, but the next chapters do, and you're like, shit, I cannot resolve this conversation peacefully. I need to
just do this the right way. I have to just, like, spill the plot twist in, like, the most, like, bullshit ass pulley way possible, but you know what? Fine. And, like, that's so good. I really, like, we were talking about this, I want to watch the series that...
Yeah, I want to watch...
I
want that series, like, really, and I want, what is the name of Blitz's series? Like, they say it a lot. I should have written down... But, like, yeah, I want to read Blitz's series, and I want to read Yuya's series, because I'm like, yeah, those look pretty good.
I would say I want to play Meteora's series, but I have played Meteora's series. It's a Tales game. Like, when they showed me the cover of, like, Meteora's game, I was like, it's like a Tales or Final Fantasy. Like the box art looks like, you know, Final
what it
Fantasy,
reminds me most of, like, Meteora's series, like, just her whole character design, like what she kind of vaguely describes of her plot. Like, yeah, it feels like a Tales game, or, like, one of those, like, late PS2, early PS3, like, kind of, like, Phantasy Star, or, like, Xenogears, or Xenosaga. Sorry, Xenosaga.
Yeah.
Yeah, where...
Yeah, Xenogears is different.
Yeah, but, like, that kind of, that whole, like, that, like, aesthetic for it, you know, or, like, Yeah,
like a rogue.
Yeah, when you know, it's the kind of thing where, like, when you're walking around, like, the game store and you're looking at box art, you're like, it's the kind that's not the big mainstream one, but it still looks pretty good.
Right. Yeah, and you're just kind of, like, not sure, and it has, like, a huge cult following. Is Meteora from a Trails of the Sky game?
Like,
I think
here's where I'll put it. Her game looks like it has a major gimmick in it. Right? Like there's a weird gameplay gimmick that you've never seen before in her JRPG.
You are so right. I really think, now that I'm, like, thinking about it, because, like, the whole gimmick of, like, this show is that it's about characters who are, like, really popular and kind of caught the public's eye in some way. But Meteora is established in the game as being, like, an elevated NPC.
She is the last shopkeeper you encounter.
And so I really think, because, like, Trails of the Sky, or Sora no Kiseki, whatever you want to call it, like, its gimmick is that, like, all of the NPCs have, like, crazy fleshed out, and I mean, like, every single NPC in Trails in the Sky, or of the Sky, has, like a crazy fleshed out backstory, right? So I think that's what she's supposed to be, except, like, more hard fantasy instead of, like, modern fantasy. That
she, you know, and
has,
like her whole thing with, like, within the story is that, like, it's pretty clear her character, like, because she's not the protagonist or, like, the antagonist, she's the last shopkeeper, like, it's very clear that they the fandom lets Meteora get away with everything. Like, she has all these crazy powers, and it's clear that's because she's probably, like, a fandom darling, you know?
Yeah, she's like the fandom, like the dark horse that, like, the one rando NPC who has tons of fan art because, like, she's got a cute character design and everybody latches onto her because she's just
like,
enough
more
of a
so
blank
than, like,
slate,
any of the party members or protagonists. Like, even Sota says, like, yeah, I recognize her immediately. Like, I played your game and I was really, like, I got really, like, appealed to me. Your character really appealed to me and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's just an elevated NPC. That's totally it. Oh, man. Yeah.
I
love this show!
So I wanted to do, like, a little thing. Like, I wanted to, like, figure out, like, what kind of, like, show each character is quote-unquote from. You know?
Oh my god, I was gonna suggest the same thing!
So, like, Silesia and Charon, like we said, are kind of from, like... But they're from light novels. They're not really from a game, you know? But, like... Their series is it almost feels like it trapped in an MMO or like MMO series, but, like, without the actual being trapped in it. Like,
it's not an isekai, but, like,
it's got, like, it's got a giant robot in it and magic, and she can fly.
Yeah, she can just fly because I'm, like, trying to think of, like, a good parallel show that you could watch that's like a fantasy show like that. But the thing is that, like, I'm realizing now, I'm
trying to think of, I'm, like, drawing a blank, like, to what it could be, and I think part of it is because you and I don't read light novels. That's, like, an entire genre that you and I don't really... Yeah, we don't partake in that,
have
you know?
access to.
Like, I don't know if you're like me, where, like, you're always bummed out when, like, oh, here's an additional content for this thing. Oh, it's a light novel.
It's a lot. Apparently, because, again, I do watch Mother's Basement, and he's, like, a huge shill. I mean, I like him, but he is, like, a huge shill. Kadokawa has... God, I sound like I'm doing an actual promo for Kadokawa right now. Kadokawa has an actual, website where you can read translated light novels, and you pay, like, $5, and I can't remember the name of it right now. I'll post it on Twitter later, because I don't feel like Googling it, but Kadokawa is, like, a major light novel publisher in Japan, and they have a whole, website devoted to buying and reading light novels from Japan that have been translated. So, I guess I could technically get into light novels, but I also have, like, anime and other things to watch, so I really don't have the time. Sorry. But hey, I don't watch a lot of fantasy anime, but if you want a cool fantasy anime that might kind of make you feel the same things that you feel for that, Bahamut.
That's a good parallel for that one.
Yeah, because you know what? That does make sense, because Rage of Bahamut feels... Because it's like...
Rage of Bahamut is the best Tales anime. Like, yeah.
It's the best Tales anime.
Like how Diamond is Unbreakable is the best Persona anime. Like, Rage of Bahamut is the best Tales anime.
For sure. It is, and it kind of has that same feel, because, like, Rage of Bahamut is an inexplicable... Rage of Bahamut Genesis. Apparently Virgin Soul is not that good, which is such a shame. I haven't had a chance to watch it myself, but whatever. Rage of Bahamut Genesis is an absurdly good 12-episode anime based off a mobile card game in Japan. That is just kind of like, whatever.
It's just funny because, like, you know, we can do this later, but, like, that whole series, like, you'd expect it to be, like, just shilling for the product, but, like, it does none of that at all. It's...
No. None of the major characters in Rage of Bahamut, except for, like, Jeanne d'Arc, are even in...
Yeah, it's weird, and so like if you watched Recreators and you liked the Silesia and like the bits we saw of her world, Rage of Bahamut is probably the way to go. It does.
It does have magical mech things, doesn't it? They don't ride them, but it has like giant mech-looking golem monsters. Yeah, Rage of Bahamut is definitely a good comparison, and it's short and good. And apparently, Virgin Soul isn't that great, but Genesis has like the most absurdly excellent animation for an anime that is an adaptation of a fucking card game. So please watch it.
We might have to.
We might have to do an episode on it someday. Who knows?
So, Rui is easy. Rui's he's Eva and Gundam and Gurren Lagann all rolled into one.
It's a mashup of those three things. Yeah. Rui is like the one character who didn't stick with me that much. What was I saying? Rui didn't stick with me that much.
I wish more would have been done with him. You know?
Yeah, he just was kind of like a whatever character. I mean, like, he was fine, but there were way more compelling characters in the show. You know what I mean?
He didn't get a chance to shine as much as the others, and I think that's also because it is hard to deal with a giant robot when everyone else doesn't have a giant robot.
Right. Yeah. And especially because it's obviously like they didn't use his giant robot that much, because I'm sure it was like a
probably
pitch to try
cost
and
a lot of money. And like, you know, unlike Silesia, he didn't have any backup powers he could use to participate, you know.
Right. He's just but yeah, definitely I like his creator
Nakano Gane is a fun character.
He's fun. He's like a pudgy, goofy, like good-hearted just animator with like crushes on, like, he's just like a weeb,
he's just he's very excited to be working on his own series, you know. Yeah.
He's great. But definitely like obviously the Eva parallel is because like Rui has a character thing where he's like, I don't want to pilot the giant robot. But then he gets like really hot-blooded like Simone and Kamina.
He's very much, you know, Gynak's giant robot.
But it has like space politics and child soldiers.
Yeah,
so
it's Gundam, Evangelion, and Gurren Lagann rolled into a single character with really one of the coolest mech designs ever.
It's so like big and chunky.
When I saw it, like his arm cannon is located in his elbow. Like,
how cool is that?
It forces him to do a cool pose whenever he needs to fire it. I'm like, ah! And it's built like a fucking tank. You know,
we've been huge.
We're looking like lately, like if you look at Giant Robot, like it's kind of been shifting away from like bulky to more like streamlined. You know.
Yeah, like the mechs in Darling and the Franxx. Those are all like super streamlined, very like kind of girly, like feminine form.
And don't get me wrong, Jehuti is still the best mech design of all time, without a doubt. But whenever I talk about robots, I have to clarify.
You're contractually obligated to.
I have to tell people that Jehuti is the greatest mech design of all time, unless you have just seen Anubis. Then Anubis is the best mech design of all time. But that being said, Rui's mech is really cool because it's just it's this monster of a robot, and it's like
the best part in the show is when Silesia finally gets her mech, and it's like it's
tiny.
like baby size.
It's like it fits in the palm of his hand.
And that's when you realize just like how huge this fucking robot. You're like, that's
always like the problem with giant robots is like, you know, that's why Birds for Scale exists for a reason. And so, you know, you have that shot where in the end where it's Rui in the mech and like Silesia and Yuya are standing like at its feet, and you're like, oh, that's how big it is.
It's huge. Yeah, I respect any show, even a hypothetical show, where the mech is that giant.
And I also I really appreciate I love that control scheme, that G Gundam control style.
Oh, I know, it's
that
so cool.
1-to-1 movement is. I'm like, that's the best shit. That's the best shit.
With like the the cockpit that's kind of like G
like
Gundam.
and it's got that 360 camera, like, you know, that's the good shit. That's
the real good shit. Yeah. Oh, and the whole like I don't know why I always thought the whole idea of like a physical feedback, like if the robot gets damaged, you get that damage too. I just always think that shit's cool,
because that builds up the tension in a very real way.
It builds the tension. Yeah, it's really cool. So
next is Yuya and Sho, who are the modern Shonen Jump characters. Like,
they are modern Shonen Jump characters with persona and fucking Ojaba references.
Yeah, you know? they are very clearly like their series like probably came out like in their world that probably came out like 3-4 years ago, and it's only got like 100 and so chapters in it or so. You know?
Yeah, it's like the new hotness because it's got like fast pacing compared to like old shonen manga, which is like really slow. You know, everybody talks about it because it's like, no, they get you know, it's kind of like how people talk about the Black Clover manga, which is apparently amazing compared to the garbage anime. Everybody talks probably about Yuya and Sho's anime, like, or manga, like, no, it gets past all that slow shit that other anime take too long to, like, focus on. It gets
like, it's only 100 chapters in, you gotta read it, it's so cool, you know? It's got these great fight scenes and everything, like, it's very much like, you know, the kind of like the new, like, the new brand of, like, kind of going back to more of that, like, darker 80s style, but in a very more modern, sleek way, you know? Like, I'm reading, Dr. Stone and The Promised Neverland, and it's like that kind of like we're going back to more of the cartoony style, but with like very heavy things happening in it.
Themes? Yeah. But like the whole summoned monsters thing, like, is the epitome of, is that another fucking JoJo reference?
Yeah,
which it is.
It's
a motherfucking JoJo's reference, but they're curses instead.
Yeah, and they are really cool. Like when you first see Sho's power, and you're like, so cool. Oh fuck, that's awesome.
That's a really dope persona.
He is the Hangman. That's what his stand is. It's the Hangman. The Hangman has that exact gimmick of using mirrors and reflective surfaces to jump around.
That's so cool.
It's really so fucking cool, dope.
Man. So
Blitz and Erina, who are this gangsta and like seinen, like, you know, you won't see this in Shonen Jump. It's the level above that. Like, it's the big kid anime where the kids die. It's a monthly series, unlike Yuya and Sho's, which is clearly weekly. You know, this is a monthly chapter series of 60 pages each, and you know.
Wait, is it Yuya and Sho's thing an anime?
It's a manga, it's a manga. Right? I think that it has an anime adaptation, but yeah, it's like you know, but
yeah, it is because that's right. Yatoshi is a manga artist,
and so is Suruga. So yeah, you know, yeah.
Can we talk a minute about how Suruga is the most badass character in the show?
She's the fucking best! Oh my god!
How, like, this chain-smoking, like, 30-something-year-old woman is the most badass character in Recreators. Like, how can... There's this giant man she created whose life she's fucked over from, like, the word go. And she looks him in the eye and is like, go ahead, shoot me, motherfucker. I'm your god. And I was just like, I have never loved anybody more than I love you. And she's, you know,
it's
now.
Like, why did you make me kill my daughter? And she said, because it would be more interesting. You know, she's not gonna bullshit you. It's because it was interesting.
Yeah, Suruga is like that last conversation between Suruga and Blitz before he goes back to his world is so good because like there's no like emotional goodbyes there, you know. He's just like, whatever, see you, and she's like, hell, I might do something bad to you, but like he's kind of like, no, you won't, you know. That whole scene is so good, and Erina is adorable. I'm actually really glad, like. She's really cute, and I'm really glad that, like, Suruga brought her back. I'm like, yay! Hooray, Blitz! You get to live another day. I love Blitz. I do. He's just, like, an old dad character, and I wish more anime had that. I would watch the shit out of his show.
I mean, I'm fucking, like his and Yuya's, I'm just like, oh, yeah, I want to watch this.
I want
because you get that brief shot of like the flashback where Blitz had to kill Arena, and it's like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's got like a
it's got this cool like tech, and I'm like, he's got this fucking awesome revolver. I'm like, what?
What the fuck? Like, where do I find this? Like, Gangsta is the closest equivalent because it's a show about old men beating the hell
but
out of each other.
It's not
but,
quite.
Like, it's not
quite that, and I'm like, ugh.
And I don't know what else. Like, I could. Like, I'm trying to think of other stuff with, like, old dudes in it, but it's all kind of, like, realistic
It
stuff.
kind of feels more like it would have been back in the 80s, like that sort of, like, 80s level of violence,
Yeah, I feel
like,
that
I can easily see the panels where, like, Blitz walks in on, like, a massacre, and there's just, like, fucking limbs everywhere, and, like, spinal cords like, screwed about.
Like, organs, like, strewn around. Yeah. Oh, man. You mean like an old pig? Nope, we can't do a BBZ right now. We might as well just talk about it instead. But yeah, no, Suriga is, like, a fucking baller. Like, she's just so cool, and I really we didn't talk about Marine and Matsubara when we were talking about Silezia's thing, but we can, like, do a little aside right now. One of my favorite parts, because I actually do draw, not often, but I mean, I draw, and I used to draw a lot. I went to school for this shit. There's that bit where Suriga is drawing, like, a thing for her story, and she just bangs it out really fast, like, while she's having a conversation with people. And, like, Marine has to leave the room because she feels so shitty about how, like, her own production is so slow. And that was, like... Yeah.
Okay. What were we talking about again?
Marine and Suguru.
Right.
The bit in, when they're kind of getting ready for the arena fight when... Suguru starts drawing, and, like, Marine is so jealous that it, like, really upsets her. She's not, like, jealous, she just feels, like, really inadequate. That's what I mean when I say that, like, the show kind of resonates with you if you make any kind of, like, content at all, or if you've ever like done art or anything like that. You've felt those moments of, like, really petty jealousy, and I mean, like, that's like, Sota's whole thing. Like, it's his, like, big horror. Like, I mean, what he did was pretty shitty. And that's kind of what it is that feeling of, like, intense jealousy toward, like, a good friend, because you want to be able to make things as well and as successfully as they make things, and it makes you sometimes into, like, a really petty person. Like, man, that was something I felt, like, really, really intensely at a lot of moments, and I was just, like, that whole I don't know, it just put me back in art school.
Whole exact thing of, like, being very jealous of, like, your friend's success when, like, you do feel, like, proud of them for it, but, like, you're also, like, you want that too, and, like, it's almost, like, not fair to you that they're getting all the credit when you're supposed to, like, be peers, you know?
Right, yeah. It's like a really... And then you feel really shitty about it. Because
you feel awful.
Because it's like, no, I should just be exclusively happy for my friend.
Yeah.
But, like, you still kind of feel, like, that shittiness. And, like, yeah, that was something I, like, the show did a really good job of expressing in, like, kind of quiet ways. And especially the whole... The collaboration with, like, other artists. That part where Yatoji and Matsubara... like, blow up on each other about how shitty a story, like, about whether or not they think a story beat is a good idea.
Yeah.
But like, they kind of come back. That was really, like, that stuff for a lot of people. I think that, like, the reason this show has a low rating on my anime list is because that stuff for, like, regular people probably isn't too interesting. But, like, I went to art school, and like, that was shit I felt, like, super intensely, and I was, like, right there with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, you know, if you've ever been part of, like, a group effort, or, like, you know, or you've had, like, creative peers, you know, you are bound to have the exact argument that they had.
Yeah, like, this is, you don't get what's going on, or, like, this, I don't like this plot beat, or whatever. Like, that was something you just, like, you felt really, really intensely, and so... like, Recreators for me is very resonant, and just, I mean, I thought some of the internal drama shit was just as compelling, maybe even more so than some of, like, the external fight stuff, you know?
Yeah, you know, like, in all honesty, like you said, like, early on, like, it slows down at those points, but, like, I almost, like, watching this, I'm like, I kind of want to watch an anime about making a collaborative project like this, you know?
There actually are a bunch, since, like, this is my chance to make more recommendations. This season has Comic Girls, which is kind of like a moe anime about making comics, but apparently it's pretty fun and good. And then there's a bunch, shit, now I can't remember their names, of course, but there are, there's been 2 shows about making video games, and there's a show about making anime, and both are apparently very, very good. Maybe we'll after the episode as well, I'll post them on Twitter or something like that, and you can check out the Twitter and find those names, because there actually have been some pretty good anime about making content that have, like, nice animation and good writing and are apparently very much worth your time if that's a thing that interests you. So yeah. But yeah, no, I loved it. I loved that moment of Marine feeling inadequate. Even though I think Marine is great. I mean, like, as a character, she's great, and her designs for Silesia are amazing, you know?
Even Tsurugu had, like, her whole bit where she's like, yeah, I looked at what Marine was drawing, and I felt like, how can I compete with that?
Yeah, because Marine's is so, like, detailed and it's very beautiful, and she has a great, you know, in the narrative, she has a great eye for design, because I think Silesia has probably the best design in the show, other than, like, Altair, but I just love Altair. And yeah, like, God, I love this show.
Also, I also, like, I really love, since we're kind of talking about them, we didn't really talk about them before, but I love Matsubara's writing strategy.
Yeah.
Of, like, he, you know, it's very clear, like, when he's writing his series, like, he very clearly, more than the others, is, like, determined to give them a satisfactory ending at the end of this. You know, like, his goal with his story is to give them an ending that'll be satisfying for everyone, you know?
Right.
He's not writing tragedy for the sake of tragedy. He wants it to lead to something good at the end, you know?
Right,
He even has that thing where, like, when they're first fighting Altair, and he's like, Silesia, get up. I didn't write you to lose to some fucking kid's OC.
Yeah. Man, one of the best parts in the show is when, I think it's, like, Meteora who says that when, like, Matsubara and Silesia are having, like, an argument, she thinks it's really great that, like, so much care was poured into Silesia as a character that she can have these very strong opinions about things. Like, right off the bat, other characters kind of had to, like, once they get in the real world, that's another thing that recreators, I just love that they do, is, like, once these characters are in the real world, they're, like, their worldviews and their sense of, like, taste starts to expand, because they're becoming real people. They're not just, like, characters in a story, which, by virtue of the fact that, like, a writer cannot possibly capture every single feeling or sensation that a person feels, or it'd be a boring story. So, like a character and a person are two very different things.
Yeah, you know, but they have that whole thing where it's like every creation mentions how good the food tastes in the real world, because
it's impossible to capture that.
Yeah, you can't capture that full detail in their world, you know. Silesia mentions that she doesn't have, like, a lot of, like, folk tales or, like, you know, stories in her world, because Matsubara couldn't possibly write a fully encapsulated story into his own story, you know?
Especially because it's a light novel, which by their nature are more light versions of stories. They're kind of more stripped down, simplified, easy to digest, or not that they're stupid, just that they aren't the same scale and scope as like a Game of Thrones or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, I love that, and but at the same time, Silesia is presented from the word go, unlike the other characters, as being more fully realized, because Matsubara, like, it makes me so emotional. Matsubara, like, loves this character, and it's beautiful.
He is, you know, he was, like, Takarada was broken up when Alistaria died, but, like...
Oh, that scene is, like, it was such a... Oh, my God.
And then you also see Matsubara, like, about to have a breakdown, because that's, like, his child,
Yeah, oh my God, the evolution of Silesia and Matsubara's relationship is, like, one of my favorite parts of the whole show, but because he goes from being like, oh, she's, like, a cute girl, just like I always dreamed, to being like, oh, I adore this character, and, like, I'm so proud of her, and, like, it's beautiful, oh my God, it's so good, just so many dreamy sighs. Please watch Recreators.
So the next one is Alistaria, who she's from Berserk.
She's just a girl. She's a girl guts. She's guts.
Yeah, like her series it's very clear, like very heavy in like the violence and dreariness and like unlike Matsubara, like you aren't quite sure if her character is going to make it out at the end,
Right, yeah. But she's kind of like, this is like a weird thing to say, but like Saber from Fate's Day Night, like Artoria, like her backstory, which is actually pretty fucked up with the whole Mountain of Corpses thing. Alistaria is like if you had a whole anime that was just about Saber's backstory.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's kind of what it is, and mixed with a little bit of Berserk with the whole like this is clearly supposed to be like a really dark fantasy. It's a seinen fantasy, like that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could totally see that. But I really I love Alistaria and her whole her development, and especially her relationship with Mamika. I'm actually really surprised. To get off topic is like in my own sentence. I like her relationship with Mamika, but I'm like really shocked that Takarada became like an actual character.
Yeah.
I'm glad he did, because I think him and like Alistaria, some of their conversations are some of the best in the show. The bit where she's like, please tell me that there's like a point to all of this misery, and he's like, yeah, of course, I wanted you to be like a symbol to people. And, like, I really felt that, too, because, like, there's a lot, again, like, Saber and characters like that who are, like, these cool, badass lady knight, like, one of my favorite character tropes is badass, sad lady knight.
Yeah.
Like, because I just think they're, like, the coolest characters. And this whole idea of, like, they are so, like, strong and noble that they become, like,
It's to a fault, it's...
Yeah, to, like, a fault, but also... to their detriment, but also to, like, almost be, like, role model, not, like, good role models, but maybe, like, a role model still, like, to be, like...
signs of, like, determination and, like, pushing on.
Yeah, you admire that determination, even in the face of, like, horrible odds. You just really admire those kind of characters, and, by the end of it, you absolutely admire how strong Alistaria is, and she's so cool. And her powers are really cool.
And I also really liked that Takarada was confident that she would not stay with Altair,
Yeah, because he knew his own character.
Yeah, and they asked, like, are you sure, like, she'll switch sides, she'll be with us? And he said, he's like, absolutely. I know this character in and out. Like, I know what she's going to do.
Right, yeah. Which is great. Like, of course, it's that whole idea again with Matsubara, where it's like, yeah, I wrote this character, I know exactly what... And that feels, again, kind of like a reference back to this whole idea of, like, a Deus Ex Machina, but it's, it makes sense in the meta, where... Yeah. Of course, these people know their characters. They know what they're going to do.
It's like a self-inflicted Deus Ex Machina, where, like, the characters themselves are bringing it out.
Right. Like,
it's
it's smart. I don't know. I think the writing in Recreators is really, really smart, more so than even what people give it credit for. I really, like, really powerfully, and I don't even know why, but the bit when, like, Takarada has a come apart after Alistaria dies.
Oh, God. I felt so bad. Like,
it was so, I don't know. I was just, like, right there with him. And not because, like, oh, this character I like died, but it was kind of like, I don't know. Subjective, like having something bad happen to a thing you made, you know?
Well, you know, it's like Matsubara, where it's like, it's very clear Takarada had an end game in mind for his character, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's very clear that, like, you know, a lot of them, you know, barring, I guess, like, Sudoga, but even her to an extent, like, you know, these creators all form an attachment to their creations, and, you know, it's like, I guess they're like, it's kind of like, you know, like how a writer is like, you see it like a lot online, it's like, no, I can inflict bad things to this character, but the actual, like, writer cannot do that to me, you know?
Right.
And so it's kind of that same approach with what happened to Alisteria and with Silesia and Charon, where it's like, you know, when they aren't the ones in control of that character's, like, level of misery, like, it's more painful that way, you know?
Right, because it's kind of like...
It's not... It goes against what their intent for it was, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And he just, you know, he had so much faith in the real Alisteria,
right?
You know, and just to see it end up being hopeless like that to his own character, yeah, you know.
Yeah, and that whole, like, that breakdown he has just feels like really, like, real, and felt just, like, incredibly relatable for some insane reason. And yeah, God, have I mentioned I love this show? So who's next?
Next is the last one to join the team would be Hikayu and Onishi.
Oh my God, Hikayu, poor Hikayu.
I feel like I'm really glad Hikayu is in the show. A bit less Onishi,
bit less.
I'm glad Hikayu is in the series for, like, being the highlight of, like, trying to force characters into doing what they're like not meant to be.
They're, like, explicitly not meant to be.
Yeah, like, you know, somehow, and it's pretty clear how Onishi got the public to accept. Like, you know, it's that same thing where it's like this character is clearly getting away with it because, like, otaku are, like, will allow anything positive to happen to this character because they think she's hot.
Yeah, she's a cute girl. So as long as Hikayu's, like, fighty outfit is, like, kind of sexy and her boobs are out there, then yeah, they're totally cool with it because, like...
Yeah, and so that's why Onishi can give her just a fucking buttload of dumb super attacks out of nowhere.
Super attacks with, like, really radical, like, I love that the animation style changes.
Yeah, it's like they do that
strokey thing.
Yeah. She's fucking, like, punching craters into the ground, and she's giving these, like, dramatic speeches about justice, and, like, yeah, it's very clearly the reason he could get away with that is because the audience would have accepted anything involving her.
Yeah, and because, like, you know, that is kind of like a thing, like dating game characters becoming elevated into, like, fighty badasses is, again, kind of like a fate thing, but I mean, like, that's just a normal...
It's a fandom thing, you know? It's part of... Yeah.
And Onishi is, I actually ended up liking him. I mean, he was kind of like, I hate that character archetype. It's like, it's like Mineta all over.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, I kind of ended up liking him at the end, too, because he's another guy who just kind of, like, had a lot of faith in the characters, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, I really did appreciate that, like, he pushed for all of this stuff, and, like, he was confident that it would work because it's his character, you know?
Right, yeah. And he was, like, more so than anybody, even from the start, he was just kind of confident that this was all going to work. And I guess it's...
Yeah.
And I guess it's because, like, you know, those Dojin games, they kind of live and die by their fandom, you know? Like, more so than any other kind of property.
It is...
Yeah.
You look at, like, you know, a lot of these Dojin games are like these dating sim games. Like, even you look at, I guess the only one I can really compare it to is, like, yes, either Fate or, like Doki Doki Literature Club, where, like, the fandom is just nonstop. It just keeps going, and it keeps producing more and more content, you know?
Yeah. Like, long after, like, you know, Fate was just a crazy... I mean, it was a spin-off of Tsukihime, which is another crazy doujin game, and all of these games kind of were just... They became huge by the strength of their fandom, not because of, like, their crazy awesome production values or anything like that. They became big off the strength of their fandom. So if anybody understands the power of, like, a fandom, then yeah, it's Onishi, you know?
Yeah, exactly. He gets that. He understands, like, what the fandom wants, you know?
And he knows that, like, yeah, you can do crazy things if people, like, adore your work, even if it is a little ass-pully.
Yeah.
So, like, he knew from the beginning, like, more so than anybody else, like, yeah, this is gonna work, because that's the nature of fandom.
It's kind of funny, like, going back a little bit to Yuya and Sho, you know, even the plot twist reveal of, like, you know, no, Yuya was not the one who killed Sho's girlfriend and friend.
Right.
And it's like, there's that shot where it's like, you know, you see two characters, like, watching it, and one of them, like, they're both smiling, and one's like, oh, that's the dumbest thing ever.
Right.
And then it cuts to the girl who's like, oh, no, they can be together now! And it's like,
yep.
You know, it also ties into that thing of, like, if you like the series and like the character, even if you know that it's a total asshole, even if you know it's, like, the most bullshit, like, rollback of something, it's like, no, I don't care, because now they're happy.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's every time you hear somebody on Twitter or Tumblr talking about, like, the AU where everything is fine, it's, like, kind of, like, people love the suffering, but people also kind of just want things to be okay. Like, our nature is to want these characters we like to be okay.
There's a really good real world example of this just happened to me. Like, I don't know if you watched the last season of Samurai Jack.
No. I haven't had a chance yet.
Okay, so, like, you know, well, you've probably seen it where, like, they introduced a new character, Ashi.
Yeah.
Who ended up being Jack's love interest for the last season.
Right.
And it's like, when the episode aired where they first got together, people were like, oh no, I don't like this, you know, it goes against Jack's character, blah, blah. And, like, the response was, shut up, they're happy.
Yeah, shut up. They're happy, you know? Like, because you just want these characters who you've bonded with to, like, be okay, you know? Because, like, you...
And so that's...
You, like, project so much onto them, you know?
Yeah, you know, you want to root for them, and it's the same thing with Yuya and Sho and with Hikayu, where it's like, no, I know it's dumb, but shut up, it's fun, and it's nice to see something good happen to this character who deserves it, you know?
Yeah, and Hikayu is cute and popular, and everybody wants her to come out on top, you know? And, like, and so it's cool to see, you know, I get the appeal to see, like, the little wafy love interest character get to be, like, a cool badass and get to beat people up. You're like, yeah! Hell yeah, I'm into it. It's stupid as shit, but I'm with it.
And then, you know, at the end of the series, where Onishi's like, yeah, you're going to write a spin-off where you will get to be the cool action star.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, fine, I'll wear the skimpy outfit, but you'd better straight up hook me up with the main character.
Oh, it's so good. It's amazing. It's such, like, I don't know. I guess because Rei Hiroe just really understands fandom too. It feels like a show written by a bunch of people who get it, you know? Who actually genuinely get it about, like, wanting these characters to make up and be happy and elevated NPCs and the one badass love interest, and we want to see her fight and kick ass, you know? Like, all of that stuff just all makes sense, you know?
So
is that it? Is other than Altair?
We've covered almost everyone. I just want to really quick, we didn't talk about Magane is from Detective Conan.
No, she's from Bakano.
No, but her story is about, like, a genius detective boy.
Yeah, but Detective Conan is not that dark. It's definitely like it's like a mishmash of Bacano and like, I'll give you Detective Conan.
Yeah.
But like, Magane's character is like a Claire Stanfield 100%.
Yeah, she like, I don't know, like, because like, part of the thing is I can't quite place like what age group her series would be in, because she's not the protagonist, like, and it is about like a genius boy detective, like, it could be like a really dark shonen.
The one promo picture we see of it just gives me like Major Bacano or like 91 Days or Joker's Game, which is a boring anime, but whatever. Like Joker's Game vibes and stuff like that.
I'd have to look at it again because, like, the way I remember the shot being framed, like, she's kind of like in the background, like she's not like the primary villain, like the way Yuya is the primary antagonist.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the way I saw it, the way I processed it, like the way like the anime plotted out in my head is like she was like an arc villain for like a really like serious portion of the series,
right?
And then she just like the fandom like latched on to that character,
right?
Like I think like her character is not quite the same tone as the rest of the series, but you know it's hard to like say for sure because you know that's not like we don't have a lot of. There's no supplemental material for this series, which is bad because I want more.
I want to know more. Or like, I don't know how to pronounce it. Bungo Stray Dogs?
Yeah, I could see that too. Or like, I guess like, I've seen people point to like Danganronpa as well.
I could see Danganronpa. There actually is a character in Danganronpa who looks a lot like Magane. Mm-hmm. The one with she's got like she's got pigtails and the round glasses. And
she's got the tongue, the weird, like, long tongue.
Yeah. And she wears the school uniform almost exactly like Magane's. So it could be like a hybrid of a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Magane has a lot of influences, so that's plenty of stuff for you to go check out if you want to.
Yeah.
But I think all that's left after that is like Altair, who is Hatsune Miku.
Yeah. Altair is the fandom, like she is the OC, and yeah, she is the one who like I think I always love that shot where like it shows like all the fan art and like fan vids she's in. You know what Altair is? Mm-hmm. Altair is the girl in every single Nightcore remix video on YouTube.
Oh my god.
She was like, she is everyone's like anime avatar for message boards from like 2003 to 2006.
Yeah. I mean, she is straight up. She is Hatsune Miku. I mean, to the point that she even has like the crazy long pigtails and like, I mean,
I really think like Altair's entire concept is great. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, because like you said, the whole thing is about being defined by like how the fandom perceives you.
Right.
And it's like, well, when you have a character that has no canon backstory, and it's just however the audience interprets them. Yeah, no wonder her powers are limitless and she's invincible. No one like built a weakness into her.
There is no set there's no set powers for her. She can just be anything. And again, that's Miku. That's 100% Miku.
Yeah. It's that whole idea of like, well, this character exists for you to do like anything you want with them, you know?
Yeah, she's an internet idol. That's it.
Yeah, there's no canon backstory. There's no like development. She doesn't have like an additional cast of characters. Mm-hmm. She's just an icon, and however you want to draw that icon is valid and will be accepted, you know?
Yeah, all she has is like a cool character design and like one music video that kind of vaguely establishes a few things about her as a character. That Shimazaki made before she killed herself, and like that's it. And then after that, she's 100% a blank slate, and you can project onto Altair as much as you want. Yeah,
she's a character with no identity, you know? A lot like Sirius that they tried to make at the end, but like, you know, that was what makes her...
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, what makes Altair so threatening and successful is kind of the same thing that, like, Saitama has, where it's like her power is undefined, and that's why she's invincible, because like she's never been established with any real limits. She doesn't have any.
Right, like there's never been a reason, like, within the plot of her world. For one, there is no world, and for two, there is no plot. So there's never been a reason to establish any weaknesses for her, so she can just be anything. And, so, like, a lot of people think that's an ass pull, but I think it's genius, because, again, it's an understanding of that kind of
fandom.
That fandom, that online idol. Those characters that just get fan art because their designs are compelling. It's the Vocaloids. It's like Kizuna Ai. And
exactly.
It's the other YouTube, like the other little YouTube AI video game girls that you see these days.
Yeah.
That.
They don't exist within the confines of any, like, structured story, so you can't, like, define them, and that's what makes her dangerous, and especially because her own, like, the original creator of her is gone, and so there cannot never be any establishing characteristics.
Yeah, exactly. Shimazaki basically, like, created, she created and threw kind of, like, her own, like, anger and bitterness into the world, and then, she killed herself. And so there's no way to kind of rein Altair in.
It's like I said, she's Frankenstein's creation monster.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And oh man, like, the whole bit with Shimazaki and Altair at the end of the show is so, like, it's just, like, heart-wrenching, and it's obviously kind of like Sota's, like, goodbye to Shimazaki, because it's obvious that, like, even though, like, he did a really, really, really shitty thing, he still cared enough about her to be able to replicate her enough to make Altair happy, and then by kind of making Shimazaki into a I mean, that's the cool thing, is that we've established in the earlier episodes, by the time Shimazaki shows up, that just by existing in the real world, these creations become real people,
Yeah.
And so the longer Shimazaki stood there and talked to Altair, she became real. She stopped being just like Sota's projections of the girl he knew, and became Shimazaki. I mean, she kind of lived again, and then they kind of just
became a reincarnation, or another, like, another chance, basically,
Yeah, and that was, I mean, that's great. That's Altair. Like, Altair wins, but it actually feels, because the thing is that too, the show establishes that all of the characters in the audience, like the audience in the show, is like they're rooting for Altair.
Yeah.
She's the bad guy, but everybody is rooting for Altair because she's so beloved, and so, like, again, all of her crazy OC powers they're not really an ass pull, because I was kind of right there with them. Like, I kind of wanted Altair to win, because, like,
that's what the audience's perspective of that character defines her as
yeah.
The whole series is about, like, having to find a way to work, events in not only in the creator's favor, but also in, like, the audience's favor, so that they can accept it,
Right, yeah.
And the audience accepts Altair as a sympathetic character.
Yeah, because she's angry at the world. She kind of represents that feeling we all have of, like, man, the world is, like, shitty and unfair, and bad things happen to people who don't deserve it, and so, like, you end up really rooting more so for Altair than anybody, because it's like, you really feel that. You're like, man, what happened to Shimazaki is fucking bullshit, and
yeah.
You want Altair to get some kind of satisfaction from the world, not to just be, like, erased and overpowered. You want her to get closure and happiness, and she does in the end, and I think that's part of what makes the final bits with her and Shimazaki so, like, emotionally resonant, is that it's kind of like a thing you've been waiting for the whole show, is for Altair to get that happiness.
You're right there along with the in-series audience.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great. And so by the end of it, with the whole just their reunion and the bit where there's just the two of them, it was gross.
Yeah.
It was the grossest, sobbingest tears. I was just like, it was like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just like, it's so beautiful. So, I'm a big crybaby when it comes to media. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really want to see some of like the videos that again I want to see that media,
Yeah, I want to see like all of the fan art and everything and the videos and everything that kind of like they showed clips of. Mm-hmm. And then it's just weird to think that like I wish this series had taken off more, because like I want what the in-universe fandom has,
Yeah, absolutely. I want to like read these shows or read these manga and watch these shows and kind of understand like the in-universe audience's viewpoints of why Altair is so appealing. I mean, I get it, of course. I love Altair. She's like my third favorite character, maybe second favorite character. And yeah, you want to be part of kind of like the in-universe audience and consume these shows or get more information about them, because like the only complaint I could even have about Recreators is I wanted more scenes set in everybody's world.
Yeah, I wanted more like just straight up like we got with Blitz, I want more just like, here is a clip from their series,
Yeah.
Like
just one.
Silesia got one, and like Alisteria got some. But like, I want to see the world that Yuya lives in. I want to see like what his city looks like. I want to know more about Magane's protagonist.
Yeah. I want to see like a conversation between those two.
Yeah. I want to see like what Mamika's like, what reality for Mamika is like,
Right.
I want to see like,
she mentions that there's never any blood when she does an attack with Magic Splash Flare,
I want to see the gameplay for Meteora's game.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. And I want to see like the little shop conversation between Meteora and her protagonist,
Yeah. I like what we see of like Rui's mech design. I want to know what like what do cities in his world look like? What kind of like technology are they running with that?
And there's like the tiniest, briefest flash of Rui's world, but it's not like enough. I want
he mentioned that too. He mentions that like they don't really have like plastic models, and he's excited to take those home with him.
Right.
So I want to know, like, what is the culture of his world like?
Give me more.
Just give me, like, 2 episodes each of, like, Please. Dealing with the fallout of their series. Like, I want to know.
I want to know how Matsubara, ass pulls Silesia back to life.
Yeah, like, what do they do? How does Yatoji, or, how does, Takarada bring back Alisteria to cross her over with Mamika?
I want a full 24 episode anime that's just Mamika and Alisteria.
I want to see that. Because it's also funny because like, you get the 2 characters, like, of course they form a bond, Mamika represents everything Alisteria wants, like, she wants peace and happiness and joy brought back to her world. Of course they would form a bond like that. But then you think about, like, what that crossover would be, and, like, their worlds are very, very different.
They are utterly incompatible.
I want to know how these creators reconciled that.
Yeah, I really want to know. Is it just, like, a crossover game or something? I don't know. I just want to see it.
It would be like dropping Steven Universe into, like, Game of Thrones. It's like... I don't know.
I don't know how that would work, but I want to know. I need to know. I need to see more. I wish. Yeah. God, it's such a shame. Recreators should have taken off more. Such a tragedy.
So, also, there is one character we haven't talked about, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Kikuchihara.
Oh man, yeah.
And how I really, really appreciate how easily she rolled with all of this.
Kikuchi Hara is like the real hero.
she's like, she like immediately accepts that like fictional characters are in the real world. She's like, all right, I will form a government branch. We will work this out. We'll kidnap all of the writers so that we can get them together. We will explain the situation. Yep, I accept all of this. I will organize it all. Here are like identification licenses for all the creations so that you can buy things. Right? You know, she's like
she rolls with it. She's just cool the whole time, man.
You know, what I appreciate about Kikuchi Hara is like she solves the problem I have with like a lot of these like character gets brought into the real world things where it's like, well, they don't have any identification, or it's
how
like,
do they buy things?
Yeah, because like, you know, you see like things like, oh, they get brought into a different world or a different reality or whatever, and it's like, you know, at the end it's like, okay, well, I choose to stay in this world now, and then I'm like, oh, that's really nice. Wait, how do they afford things now?
You don't have a social security number. How do you get an apartment?
Yeah, wait, you don't... Are you vaccinated? You were from the Middle Ages. Like, you know, you're going to get sick now. You know...
How do you do anything? How do you pass a background check for a job?
Yeah.
How do you, like... If you're trying to do anything, do you tell people where you went to school? What about a last name? What?
It's so it's great to have Kikuchi Hara like, here, I have created identifications for you. Here you go. Now you are legally citizens of this country, so you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, like when Meteora decides to stay behind, you know, or she has to stay behind.
Yeah.
She's like, here, I have handled everything. You now have an ID, you have a fake, you have a fake history, you have all these things. Welcome to the real world, Meteora. And Meteora's like, cool. You know? Yeah. It's like, I'm glad somebody, because like usually, like, okay, technically none of that stuff matters, right?
Right,
like,
of course not.
In the grand scheme of a stories. But at the end of the day, you also kind of find yourself thinking a little bit. Like,
it's also because this series puts an emphasis on, like, how creations react to the finer details of the real world. Like we said, with, like, the food and, like, the culture of the real world being so much more expansive than what they're used to. So, like, it acknowledges these things. So, yeah, it has to follow up with, like, the consequences of that.
Right, exactly. Like, it kind of has to explain things because it's a show about kind of explaining that sort of stuff, and again, Kikuchi, her name is a mouthful though. Kikuchi Hara is great because she just really just rolls with it, you know. And it's
also like
cool.
The reveal at the end where it's like the reason she accepts all this is because she wants to be a writer herself, and she's actually like kind of into the whole like fantasy novel writing stuff and like into anime and all that.
Yeah, and then, God, just the final scene of the whole show is like perfect. You know?
Mm-hmm.
The whole final scene of everybody just being like, things could get fucked up, and not everybody will be into the thing I make, but like after all of this, you just want to keep making stuff.
You know, it's easy to say, like, the plot of the story is, like, it's not about the view count, it's not about the amount of clicks or likes that your work gets, it's about, like, you creating something. But it's deeper than that, you know?
Right, yeah.
It's it's about, like, when you are creating a world or, writing something, like, that world is now real to you.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the important part of it.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing that matters is really more so, like, sure, these are just, like, these video games we play, these anime we watch, they are just, like, dumb stories, but, like, they're not dumb, and they mean a lot to the people who interact with them and the people who make them, you know?
Yeah, that's the whole reason, like, why, it talks a lot about, like, how fandom influences a series, and it's, like, sometimes characters even mention, like, whatever, this is all fake, But it's that wrestling thing of it's real to me,
Yeah.
the reason...
It's real and important to me.
Yeah, that's why it resonates. That's why we do this podcast. It's because the stuff that we play is so, like, real to us and important to us and, like, shaping, you know?
Yeah. It's stuff that sticks with you, and it's not... Like, it is just dumb stories, but it's not. It's more than that. It's stuff that sticks with you. It's stuff that you think about years down the line. It's stuff that makes you happy, you know? Like, even if it's something silly, it makes you happy. This
whole anime is about the importance of storytelling and how, you know, how being in control of a world of your own making can, like,
enrich your life.
Yeah, and help you, like, get over your own real world problems and move past, like, struggles you're having, you know?
Yeah,
It's why fandoms develop. It's why, you know, we have this shared interest that we can connect over, and because of the nature of, like, of fiction, you know, we can have discussions about, like, interpretation or prospect about the future, or, you know...
Yeah.
Being in a story allows the audience to participate, even if they're not like writing it themselves, you know? You look at the difference between the, like, you know, people break down fandom into curation or creation, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And they're both important in, like, the development of basically small societies of fandom, you know?
Yeah, like little societies of people who make friends, and these are people who you, in some cases, like this podcast, these are people you end up friends with for, like, 10 years.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's pretty, like, that's what, like, Recreators is really about, even more so than like, the importance of creation. It's, like, the importance of, like, interacting with the stuff that gets made.
Yeah, it's not only about the power of creating something, but also how you interact with that creation once it's out in the real world, you know?
And, like, how powerful that can be, too.
Yeah.
That's great.
The series is
so good.
It's if you watch this series, you will feel like, I gotta, like, write something. Like, I gotta
make something.
Yeah, I gotta go start drawing again, or I gotta, like, write up that thing, or I gotta, like, prepare that video, you know? I need to do this because it will be important.
Yeah, even if it's just for, like, yourself, you know, making stuff for yourself is like a valid... I think Magane even mentions it. She's like, oh, are you going to be one of those artists who makes things only for themselves and never shares any of it? And then she says, like, well, maybe, sure, you can be one of those people, but then you'll be your own audience, and you'll still be subject to some kind of judgment, and you will still want some kind of validation, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you just want to end up making things by the end of it. And yeah, it's great. It's great. So please watch Recreators.
This is a series, more than, like, anything else, this series deserves a fandom, because that's what it's about.
It does. Damn it. It's good. I want a sequel of something. I want some kind of sequel.
Yeah, a spin-off, or... I think there is a spin-off, but yeah.
Anything.
Ugh.
Okay.
Yeah.
We good?
I think so. That was... Yeah, Recreators is a very good series, and I wish it would catch on, because, like, I especially feel like today, like, in today's, like, connected world, and, like, with more and more you hear about, like, webcomic creators or, like, fanfic writers getting, like, working for, like, studios, or, like, indie game developers getting pushed into studios, or, like, being on the same level as that, like, right. I feel like this series will resonate with a lot of people who are using this connected culture we have to break into the mainstream media with their own personal creations. Right.
Yeah, I feel that. I do. So again, it's on Amazon Prime. I think everybody on Earth has Amazon Prime. If not, somebody you know has a login, so go borrow it. Mm-hmm. It's a digestible 22 episodes with the single most brilliant recap episode ever written.
Yep.
So yeah, go check it out. And yeah, cool. If you've listened to all of this through all of these spoilers, there's still a lot we didn't talk about.
Yep.
So yeah. So there's still plenty for you to digest and take in for yourself, but you shouldn't have listened to all of these spoilers, you jerk. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll do it for us. Thanks to Broke for Free for use of background music. Again, you can donate to us at ko-fi.com/thegor. You can follow us on Twitter at The Gorge Podcast, where Sarah will post all of the anime and stuff that we mentioned, and as in reference to this. You can email us at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com, and you can also listen to Sarah's other podcast, which is also about creating characters and doing stuff with them. So what's that other podcast about?
Hey, I'm in another podcast. It's called Big Gay Nerds. It's an LGBT live play tabletop RPG podcast where me and a bunch of cool friends sit together and we play different types of pen and paper RPGs. We make cool characters, we go on adventures, we try out different systems pretty regularly. It's a lot of fun. You should come check us out. We're at Big Gay Nerds on SoundCloud, and we're BGNcast Big Gay Nerds Podcast on Twitter. Someday I'll remember it. Anyways, we're Big Gay Nerds on SoundCloud, and you can find all of our other links there. Thanks.
So that'll do it for us. You gotta have something. You've gotta have something.
I've gotta have something. I have got to have something. Let me think. I probably... it's weird. There's not a lot that I just genuinely hate about Recreators. Is that weird?
Yeah, I
know. I'm in awe. Fuck the fact that there isn't more stuff for Recreators. There you go.
Fuck the fact that I can't go and read these series now.
That's what it is. Absolutely. Good night, everyone.
Good night.